Hedera Hashgraph HBAR seems to be surviving the apocalypse, of course, induced by Trump's tariffs. Now, we're yet to see an end and a resolve to all of this. Are we ultimately going to see lower tariffs across the board as a dialogue is opened and there's a lot of posturing taking place right now? Or are we going to see an escalation of everything that is going to catapult economies into recession/depressions? We will see. I'm far more optimistic on Trumponomics, which I think is very unpopular to say right now, and certainly the market would disagree with me at this point, and consumer sentiment generally. However, what we're here to talk about today is Hedera Hashgraph HBAR and how it's doing remarkably well. The S&P 500 is nearly 5% down today in one day. That's a big move. Moves we're normalized, or we can normalize when it comes to the cryptocurrency space, but as it relates to the largest sort of index in the world, as it relates to the stock market, that is a significant move. And despite that, Hedera up 2.3% as of the time of recording. And we are going to be getting into price. We'll be updating you in regards to our price analysis, where Hedera is currently at. We're also going to be dropping down the timeframes and looking at the structure that this pullback has been forming and what that might tell us about tomorrow's price. And that very much aligns with our big picture view. So to not keep anybody in suspense, as it relates to price, we're still extremely bullish, despite everything taking place right now in the broader spheres. Let's kick things off with a little bit of news. We used to cover HBAR from a news point of view daily. We've got a number of things going on right now, which means my time is very much spread out, but it is something that we will get back to, certainly as I'm now at a stage where employees can take part of certain roles, and I'm allowed to just sort of go back and focus on videos and content, which is, of course, what we love to do. But this was interesting. Top projects by development activity and growth. And you can see Hedera Hashgraph is in that number 2 position, only to Arbitrum. And then you've got Axelar Network, Ripple, Uniswap, Chaya Project, Flow Blockchain, Filecoin, Celestia, and Multiverse X. So there's a lot taking place with Hedera, not just from a partnership perspective, but actually in regards to development. And we consistently get inundated with real-world applications for the Hedera blockchain, or distributed ledger. Just the other day, we released a video where they're actually looking to leverage Hedera to tokenize a certain commodity that will unlock about $90 billion to potentially retail investors and entirely innovate an entire market. So this is pretty cool. There was some pretty huge news over the past couple of days. This is Zoop, which is the company that was founded by the guy that invented or founded OnlyFans. And they point us to a Reuters article. OnlyFans founder, Crypto Foundation, being the HBAR Foundation, have submitted a late-stage bid to buy TikTok. Now, this is interesting. There's a number of companies that are in the running for this, in line with what the United States have essentially said about TikTok and it operating within its jurisdiction. Let's read this article. Startup run by OnlyFans founder submitted intent to bid on TikTok. The startup Zoop is partnering with a cryptocurrency foundation. Zoop gives a majority of revenue back to its creators. April the 2nd, a startup run by Tim Stokely, founder of the adult content social media site OnlyFans, has partnered with a cryptocurrency foundation to submit a late-stage plan to acquire short video app TikTok from Chinese owner ByteDance, the two said on Wednesday. The intent of the bid was sent this week to the White House by Zoop, billionaire Stokely's new company, and the HBAR Foundation, which are the foundation. We've interviewed many of them that are tasked with essentially growth of the Hedera ecosystem, which manages the Hedera cryptocurrency network's treasury. While OnlyFans is known for its, you all know what it's known for, Zoop is a mainstream and family-friendly and gives back the majority of its revenue to those who post on its site, awarding them for driving up user engagement. Our bid for TikTok isn't just about changing ownership, it's about creating a new paradigm where both creators and their communities benefit directly from the value they generate. So you can only imagine that there's going to be an implementation of the Hedera blockchain here. I would say predominantly, and this is one major thing that blockchains are doing, is you can actually, or distributed ledger doing is actually you can almost tokenize or regain the rights to your content, and it's very easy to derive kind of royalties and things like this on the back end of them. You can almost tokenize knowledge, which is very interesting. So you can only but imagine sort of Hedera's role in all of this. Zoop co-founder RJ Phillips told Reuters the partners have been working with a consortium of investors. Phillips said he declined to provide details on the bid for investors backing it. On Wednesday, Amazon also put in their last-minute offer to buy TikTok. The New York Times reported. Donald Trump, who's very unpopular at the moment, is expected on Wednesday to consider a proposal for TikTok to decide the fate of the app used by 170 million Americans. ByteDance faces an April 5th deadline to either sell TikTok or faces a US ban on national security grounds under the US law that took effect on January the 19th. So the clock is ticking. Could we see Hedera, one of the largest social media platforms in the world? In fact, I think it is potentially the largest, or one of the largest. Could we see HBAR actually interact with that? Well, it is entirely possible. Something we'll keep you up to date on. There's lots of people bidding for this. I think there's also a bid that's related to Polkadot. And social fi is something we haven't spent too much time talking about, but it is a massive sector that the blockchain industry is going to enable and essentially facilitate, that is worth talking about, and potentially some good opportunities there, despite the horrific price action for the markets broadly. Let's take a look at the S&P. It's down 3.5% today. Hedera's up 2+%. And just to update you guys, Hedera is my largest position in the cryptocurrency space. It's one that's still, over 100% up for us. And I think it's going substantially higher, not just to new all-time highs, but above and beyond. I think you're going to see, multiple dollars coming for Hedera Hashgraph. It's just my opinion, and I'm holding it for that. We can't time every top and bottom on that journey. What we're expecting is that journey, though, due to all the amazing things going on with this distributed ledger. Just to recap on what we've said about Hedera Hashgraph from a price point of view, we like to look at the markets through the lens of phase analysis. It breaks the markets down into 4 phases. Wyckoff did a similar thing, and that's where people get the accumulate and distribution schematics from. They were what we would look at as phase 1 or phase 3, so your bottom and your top. But there's a phase 2 and a phase 4, which are the uptrends and downtrends that fit in and around those. And cycles very much rinse and repeat. And if you look at Hedera Hashgraph, we'll take the draws off. We very much just said that this is broken out of phase 1. It's a cumulative phase into phase 2. Often you'll get a retest, and we've shown you lots of examples of this before you see that continuation in phase 2. And that's very much just what it's doing today. We like to put on the 30-weekly moving average. It helps us kind of have a relative or an easy to visual kind of barometer of what kind of a phase the market is in. There's kind of rules with it. When it's chopping in and around its 30-weekly moving average, it's either in phase 1 or 2, depending on the market structure or the phase you've just came out of. And then when you're in an uptrend, you're typically above it, and you'll often hold it. And then when you're in a downtrend, you'll be below it, just like you were down here. So Hedera's at this kind of make or break point. It's also coming back into its support. I believe you're going to get a real bounce in the not too distant future, despite what's currently taking place economically. And not only do we expect continuation based on phase analysis and a number of other things, we also expect it based on this double bottom target that ultimately sees a 96 cents Hedera Hashgraph price. And just earlier today, I was looking at Hedera's recent price action. This potentially looks very falling wedge-esque. With falling wedges, they're a volatility-based pattern. And what you can see rather clearly here is a real restriction in volatility. So you've kind of ran into Hedera with a big blow-off, just like the one that we saw over here, by the way. Very, very similar thing. This was something that, we traded, and I know many of you guys did. You can see Hedera was sort of pinned here in this kind of a falling wedge fashion. 1, 2, 3. Your volatility restricts and then expands. You sort of based out and then saw that expansion. It's looking like potentially you're setting up a similar thing today, ladies and gentlemen, for Hedera Hashgraph. And I'm expecting the same result. And I'm coming out and saying that at a time when the markets are really in dismay. I really don't think HBAR looks too bad at all here. And ultimately, we're expecting continuation on the higher time frames. When we drop down to the smaller, certainly look at the daily. you could have a bit of a falling wedge in here. And that restriction is definitely taking place, ready for an expansion. And that's likely going to see us see further continuation in phase 2, which is the phase we believe we're in. And this is just a retest. This is the perfect place to bounce. We're ultimately as bullish on Hedera Hashgraph, despite everything going on, as we've ever been. So lots of amazing things taking place. Do not fear, Allincrypto is here. We will be updating you guys a lot more regularly on HBAR like we used to. Like I say, now that we've got our kind of employees rocking and rolling in regards to our various other platforms, we can get back to focusing on what we do best, and that's bringing you daily content on some of the cryptocurrencies that we love. And Hedera Hashgraph is nothing short of one of our favorite. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it from me. I'm going to love and leave you all on that note. Hang in there, and I'll see you all on the flip side.